this is Dan Dolgen with CookSingleNYC, and I've got myself a video camera and I decided I'd like to give a try to do some videos of cooking some of the meals that are involved in the cooking classes that I'd be teaching. So if it doesn't turn out to be a mess, this will be a lot of fun. Tonight, what I'd like to do is I'm going to roast from class 1 an entire meal in one pan. It's a pan, which is a basic shallow baking pan. And then I'm going to be taking a rack, which is half the size of the pan, to use to cook the protein. So we're going to do some salmon with some little white potatoes. I've got some broccoli. We're going to roast that up on the other side of the pan. And there's very little work that the cook needs to do as far as mixing or turning or doing anything. The oven does a great deal of the work. So in getting started, I've started preheating the oven at 425, and that does take a little while. So while you're doing that, you need to prepare the ingredients. It's really good that you first get everything sort of set and ready. I'm going to take the broccoli and get that cut. And actually I'm going to switch. But before I do that, I want to make sure that the hands are clean. So before I touch any meat or vegetables, let's make sure that we're all washed out. So now that that's done, let me get back to what I was doing, which is first we're going to chop up the broccoli and just get it into pieces that we can roast. The oven's going to do all the work, because once you get the oven heated up to about 425, then roasting is something that is pretty simple. You just need to turn some of the ingredients through the process. So the broccoli has been cut into some spears, and then I'm going to take the knife and just tap these little micro white potatoes. And I just want to make little holes in the potatoes so that it doesn't build up the moisture inside and end up actually making the potatoes blow up, which is not too good. So we tap a couple of holes in the potatoes, get them ready. And the potatoes are going to be the first thing that goes into the oven. The way this recipe works is that you are cooking things based on how long they take to cook. So the potatoes take about twice as long as the other two ingredients. So we get them in first, and we set the timer for about 20 minutes. We let them cook, and then we're going to put in the salmon and the broccoli, and about another 20 minutes later, everything is done. And so you really only have to pop in there to the oven twice. When you go in the second time, you're going to just move the potatoes around and let them brown on the other side. And so now what I'm going to do is we're going to line the baking pan. And what we do is we take the aluminum foil and we measure the length of the pan, and then we add about 2 to 3 inches more. The reason that we do that is that when you first line the pan, you line it up, you get it placed, and then here's where the grill pan will go. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a V right where the end of the grill pan is. And then we're going to fold it down. And this is going to be a second section where you place your vegetables. So it's almost like taking, or it is like taking one pan and making it two. So it looks like this. So you've got your salmon over here, and then you've got your potatoes and your broccoli like that. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a small bowl and we're going to throw in our potatoes. A little bit of olive oil is going to go on top, just drizzle a little bit there. Some salt and pepper. It's very important that you season each one of your ingredients separately. And that way, if you season them separately, excuse me, the way that they should season by themselves, collectively, you'll have a dish that tastes well seasoned. If you try to season everything all at one time, it's more difficult. So we're going to take the potatoes that I just put a little bit of olive oil, some salt and pepper, just to keep it simple. Later on, we're going to throw some fresh dill on top, which we have over here. And so we've done that. And now we're really ready to put it in the oven. And the oven is not quite up to 425. It's at about 350, but we can still put it in and let it get started. So that's going to go into the oven, and I'm going to set the timer immediately for 20 minutes because we're pretty close. And while I have a minute, I'm going to take the broccoli, I'm going to put it in the same bowl, and I'm going to be adding some olive oil, salt and pepper, and a little bit of oregano. We're about out of that oil. So we've got our broccoli, and I like to just sprinkle on, thinking about how much of the vegetable I have, and if I had them all laid out, about how much would I want to put on of each of the different ingredients. And that's, in my mind, a good way to season the right amount. If you think about it laid out, you wouldn't pour a giant amount of salt on top of a spear of broccoli. Put a little bit on each one. If you try to visualize that, same thing with the oregano, just visualizing putting a certain amount for the amount that you have. I've found over the years that that works really well. And I've rarely been disappointed. I think the other guiding principle is too much salt is not good. You can always add, you can't take it away. So with that, whoops, we have our broccoli ready to go, and so when the timer goes and starts ringing, I've got my salmon sitting here, which has already got some olive oil in it, and we're going to put that on the grill rack. It doesn't matter if it's skin side up or down, works fine both ways. But what we will do is we will salt and pepper both sides liberally, make it tasty. And that's it for now. We've got another 18 minutes before the timer goes, and I'll start this video up then. Okay, so the timer's just beeped. That's 20 minutes of the potatoes cooking, and we're about to put the broccoli and the salmon onto the rack, or in the pan. So I'm taking this hot pan out of the oven, and unfortunately I have to have my back to you for a certain amount of this. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this rack and we're going to spray it with some pan type of spray cooking oil. And that's just so that there's a minimum amount of stick to the pan and it makes cleanup that much easier. We're going to take the broccoli and we're going to place it on the other open spot of the pan, and we're going to do our best to try to get the crown part, the flower part of the broccoli, connecting with the pan, because that will help it to get that nice roasted appearance and taste. So we're popping the broccoli in. It's already had the oil and the oregano and the salt and pepper put on it. And we take a look at the potato, and one side of it has got some nice browning marks on it. We're going to turn them over so that we get some nice browning on the other side as it makes contact with the pan. And then we're going to take our salmon, which has already been in the bag that it was frozen in, and we put a little bit of olive oil in the bag. You'll notice, by the way, that I haven't really had to touch anything to get my hands all oiled up. And so first, I'm going to end up cooking the salmon with the flesh side down. I take the Ziploc bag and I throw it into the sink just to get it out of the way. And we're going to be salt and peppering both sides of the salmon. So I put the salmon flesh side up first, so I salt and pepper it, then I'm going to turn it over and do the skin side and put it in the oven. So we do a little bit, once again, that same idea of how much would you normally salt and pepper something. I'm not really telling you a measurement because I don't think it's really very important. Everybody has a little different preference, but it's a small amount that just needs to go on the surface to give it a nice liberal coating of pepper and salt. So right as we get that complete, we're going to stick this back in the oven and we're going to set the timer 15 minutes. And when that 15 minutes is up, it should be pretty much done. This is salmon, so it doesn't take that long to cook. So we're going to clean up a little bit, set the timer immediately for 15 minutes. We're going to put away the salt and pepper, even though we may go and get it if we think there's a need, but generally, if you've done a nice job of just putting a good amount on the food is going to be fine. The stalk of broccoli that I cut off in the beginning, I'm going to put that back in the fridge, and I'll take the outside of it off at another time and stir fry it up. It's still delicious. And then besides that, the only other thing really left to do is to just give a quick chop to the dill, and we're going to end up putting some dill on the salmon and on the potato, so that everything's got some really nice herbs on them, and they're going to be roasted really nice, and it's going to be a real tasty, simple meal. So we've got some nice chopped up dill, probably more than we need, and we're good to go. So I'm going to shut us down. We've still got about 13.5 minutes to go before the dish should be ready. So I'll come back to you soon. Okay, so we're in the final stage now. We had the timer set for 15 minutes. There's about 30 seconds left, and a timer is a general guide when something is probably ready, but it's not a guarantee. So we have to look at it, check, and make sure that everything's properly done, or possibly do a slight bit more cooking, depending on how big it was or any other issues. So right now I'm shutting off the timer. It's got 3 seconds. We're turning it off, and we're going to grab the hot pan and I'm going to put it up here on a rack so we can all take a look at it. So basically we have 3 items, and we're looking for different things for each one to see if they're done. So the potato, we want it to be nice and soft, which it appears to be, so that when I slide a knife in, both sides are well browned. Looks great. The broccoli has got sort of a char to it. Looks well cooked. And when I also poke it with the knife, easily slides in. And the salmon, the flesh of the salmon, all the way up the salmon, if you look, has got a translucent, it's no longer looking raw, it's cooked all the way through. And so everything looks like it's cooked properly. I'm going to shut off the oven. And I'm going to take and I'm going to just lift the salmon and look at it. Everything looks good under there. And here's something very nice. When you cook the salmon like that, if you don't feel like eating the skin at this point should come off very easily off the back of the fillet. So you just give it a little pull. Oh, the smaller end popped because it was very, very thin. But still, essentially what you've only got is a piece of skin over there. So what we're going to do is now we're going to do a little bit of plating. Remember, this pan's very hot. And in taking the plate, I'll put it over here. And I'll take the salmon fillet, place it on the plate, take the other little end piece of the thin side, stick it up there. You've got some nice crosshatch from the grill. You know, I did say that it's probably seasoned well, but what I do like to do is put a little bit of what I call finishing salt, which is a little bit better salt. This is Maldon. It's a nice flaky finishing salt. Put a little bit of fresh pepper on, just because it adds a little bit of flavor. And then we're going to take our potatoes and we're going to stick them on the plate on the side so that they just are nicely nested on the plate. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give each one a little bit of a cut, because I'm going to then give them a little bit of the fresh salt and pepper, and some of the dill is going to go on everything, on both the salmon and the potato. So with that, let's again take a little bit of the salt, not too much, just add a little freshness to it. I'm not using any citrus. I could take a little bit of lemon and put it on this, but with the dill, I think it's good with just the fresh dill. Then we take the fresh dill, we're going to take a little bit, and we're going to throw it on top. Let's find some that's nicely chopped up. Throw that on there. A little bit from the potatoes, it's nice. And then first thing you do is just take a little bit of olive oil and just freshen it up with some nice fresh extra virgin olive oil, just to give it a little bit of a new kind of moisture with it. Then the broccoli, which has already had the oregano on it, we can lay that on there. And that ends up being a very full, I hope you feel a full meal, all made out of one pan. And there wasn't really a lot of intervention or work you had to do while you were creating it. Then we take our paper towel, we can just run it around, because I think it's really important that you treat yourself like you're in a fine restaurant, because it really doesn't take much time. And now you've got this beautiful plate. And let's see if I can work my camera and bring it in real close. And you can see this nice finished plate of salmon with broccoli and potatoes. Bon appetit.